Hi everyone, I am Luciana.
Hi, I'm Ozla. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. And today we have Luciana with us. Hi, Luciana.
Hi.
So, do you want to tell us who you are?
Sure. I'm Luciana Vigano. I am a lawyer from Zurich. I also own my own game studio and I've known Oz for a very long time.
Very, very long time. It's almost a decade. It's insane. But basically, in the last episode, Mercy and I talked about how she has given me a little piece of paper with an email address on it that I now say has changed my life. And that email address was actually being checked by Luciana.
It was, yeah.
And that's basically how we met, which was 10 years ago. But do you remember first time we had met?
I actually do remember because I was studying for one of my final law exams at university. So literally between exams, I sat in a study room to have an interview with you to see if you would like to join Amsterdam Youth Force.
Yeah, maybe we need to tell people what the youth forces are. So International AIDS Society has several major conferences they organize on HIV. And one of them has a huge community space embedded within the conference area. And for that space, they also utilize youth movements around the world and especially wherever the conference is being hosted. And that year it was Amsterdam. So we were working for Amsterdam Youth Force, and that was the email address I emailed, which was Luciana.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the call was only supposed to go like half an hour and we ended up like talking for 1.5 hours.
And
or
we're still
something.
talking. We're still on the phone.
Yes. Still a lot.
But yeah, it feels crazy to me. This is almost a decade ago because this was the AIDS conference in
Yeah.
2018. And when I emailed you, it
Yes.
was,
So the call was in 17.
when I emailed you, it was 17. So what we did together was organizing youth activities at the conference and bringing a bunch of young people and young volunteers from all around the world together. I know it was a crazy, crazy year. And when we met, I couldn't even properly write an official business email in English. And I literally learned everything by copying your emails and the way you were talking with people. I was, as usual, I was first the
Yes.
observer and then mimicking. But how was it from your end? And what was your favorite things that we did that year at the conference? Do you remember?
It's very difficult to tell you a favorite thing. Because we did so much. I mean, first, the crazy thing, it wasn't actually a year because the conference was in June and we had our call in December. So we put all the things we put together, we actually put together in about 6 months.
Okay, that even makes it more crazy.
Exactly. And so, I mean, we definitely completely overdid it. At that point, it was the biggest global village ever and also the biggest youth part of a global village. Because we had a cafe, we had like a sports arena, we had the cafe actually had 2 floors. So we had like an entire second floor built so people could sit up there and like drink coffee and have stroopwafels that were made freshly there. We had a
Netherlands.
museum. We had so much, so many booths. We had the condom artist that came.
We had a
And they had her
museum.
like,
We had a vulva booth, I
yeah,
remember. But the cafe, I remember
yes,
the first time I saw the cafe and I didn't know there was going to be a second floor. And I was like, this thing better does not collapse. Because if it were in Turkey, it would probably have collapsed. And I was like, I am
yeah,
not
but it was in
going.
the Netherlands. Gonna be fine.
I was like, I'm not going on the second floor. I want to survive this conference. But I think my
Yeah,
favorite things were the museum. It was amazing how we managed to bring
yeah,
HIV themed art pieces from all around the world. And also the vulva booth was amazing. I remember things are always chaotic at a conference, and especially if you're organizing things, organizing spaces at the conference, they tend to come together at the very last minute. But some things don't come together, and that brings chaos. And I remember that day, people showed up, I'm not going to name anyone. people showed up with huge pieces of wood to build a vulva that was not painted, nothing.
Some weren't even cut.
They, so me putting my butch hat on and cutting wood at the conference venue and then painting vulva for like half an hour and screaming at people saying, leave me alone with this vulva, I will paint it.
And me being on the other side screaming at certain people and then them being angry because I made their friends cry.
You did make their friends cry, rightfully so, though.
I did. But they deserved it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's why we worked so well together, right? Because you brought this like business mindset and professionality, and I was being my charming self, and I was going around people. You were like the bad cop, I was the nice cop, and we were just managing people. I
Yeah.
think it worked really, really well. And I also, as you said, remember after the conference, we did get the feedback saying this conference at the highest youth moment ever because of several reasons. It started early off, right? And
Yes.
somehow that year managed to bring a bunch of overachiever young people that have had some experience in organizing things, and we were able to put together a lot of things.
The driving forces behind Youth Force was Edward, right, as like the president. And he was also, I think, already 27, which technically is at the older end of a youth force. I was 29, which is like almost actually out of youth force because you're only supposed to be there until 30. So I think what definitely helped was that we weren't a bunch of 20-year-olds.
I was 23.
I know
so-
it's yeah, I know, but like we also had like Edward and Mark and myself and Lilo that also did a lot, and we were 27 and above.
No, I
Like
think you're right. It was, how would you say, like it was a whole range of young people, right? So it wasn't just
Yeah.
20-year-olds, it wasn't just 25-year-olds, or it wasn't just a bunch of 29-year-olds. There was also an
No.
exchange of how to do things and showing how to do things to each other within the young people. And I think that also made it especially special for that year because we managed to mobilize a lot of young people from all around Europe and around the world. I remember we managed to bring a bus full of young people from Ukraine. That never happened again under youth forces. We managed to set up a radio.
Got the Rijksmuseum to work with us on the museums. And then there were also things we got because of connections we made during like half a year. So we had the I Swallow Daily prep campaign posters that we got. They were amazing.
They were so good.
That we only found by accident and then found out that like the museum that owns them just gives them to you if you want to, and then we printed them. I still have mine at home, by the way.
Oh, and I'm so jealous. Every time I see it at your place, I get so jealous. But you know what happened to mine, right? So during this whole chaos,
Yeah.
to everyone listening, I was technically based in Turkey. But then I wasn't happy in Turkey. I wasn't happy with what I was studying, and I wanted to be close to the conference as much as possible because people kept meeting every week or every other month or so on. And I couldn't afford the flights, no train. I was so far away. I was still privileged to have the Australian passport because of my father, so I didn't need a visa, but I did not have the finances to travel to Amsterdam in any way, shape, or form. And this was the first international youth organizing team that I was a part of, so I was super excited. No experience, but very willing to work for it. And then I thought, let me do an Erasmus semester, and I moved to the border of Germany, like with the Netherlands. And that's how I got to start going to Amsterdam and start attending those meetings. Well, I only attended one person, but still. And I brought this I Swallow Daily poster that we printed back to my dorm in Germany. And then I moved with it. And I remember when I was moving, I had a huge poster that said I Swallow Daily. And I'm in a conservative German town on the train. All the Germans are like, what's going on? But yeah, then I lost it while I was moving between places.
And then we had a contact at IKEA, and IKEA had like AIDS-related merch bags. So they gave us some of those to put up. Yeah, we had an artist that made an amazing painting. And then through like all of the people that we pulled together from all over the world, somebody just was like able to meet her in her village and like bring it to Amsterdam and brought it back again. So yeah, it was very cool. But I think what also was really nice was the events that we were able to organize. It was super cool that we had Scott Agnew there, the Sex Workers Opera. I think we also put on a bunch of very good panels, especially the one that I spoke at.
And also one thing that I learned from that youth force was be shameless, right? We reached out to everyone. We reached out to Rijksmuseum, we reached out to IKEA, we reached out to radio podcast providers. We reached out to everyone with no shame and sent them basically the same email describing what we are planning to do and asked for their support. And surprisingly, I was surprised back then, but actually not surprisingly, many of them were willing to help and support us.
Yeah.
So that's how it came to be. Then I was also becoming a youth ambassador. I was in the program to become a youth ambassador. So as usual, the way I am at these conferences is running around, doing multiple things at the time and stretching myself extremely thin and then collapsing at a corner, which happened several times.
To be fair, we didn't plan on being that busy during the conference. But an insane amount of our proposals got accepted, which we didn't expect. So I don't know if like everybody knows how this works, but you can send in proposals for basically anything, for a performance, for actually a flash mob, because they have to be informed for security reasons, for panels, for a booth, for anything. And they have guidelines, but the guidelines are complicated and very long and like long-winded. We said, okay, let's try to break those down. You and I actually did that. We broke it down to like, this needs to be in there. It needs to be this many lectures you need to write. You need to answer these questions. And then what was a large part of our work was going through those proposals and working them over until they like made sense and to send in. And we sent in, I think, around 60 or 70 proposals for a large variety of things, because everybody said about 10% of proposals get accepted. So we were like, okay, we're just going to overdo it and hope that like 6, 7 of those proposals will be accepted. Turns out like 52 of our proposals got accepted, which led us and myself to freak out completely.
Instant panic attack.
Because how the fuck are we supposed to actually pull those together, right?
Yeah.
But that actually then led to us having a youth village inside the global village, because there were so many things. They were like, it doesn't make sense to scatter them. So that's why we had like our own youth part where they grouped a lot of the things, and then the museum was right next to it. Yeah, that was insane. We definitely didn't plan on that.
No, I kind of forgot about the guidelines. But yeah, you're right. I think that was also unique for that year's Youth Force as well. We not only went through the guidelines and wrote our proposals for the Youth Force only, but we also made sure to circulate the summarized guidelines we produced with the youth networks around the world. And we also gave feedback on their proposals. Even if they did not want to be collaborators, we just went through their proposals, gave feedback to improve on them. But with many of them, we actually collaborated. And you know what's funny? Last year when we were in Munich,
Actually, it was the other side around.
oh,
They all asked us to collaborate, and we only agreed to collaborate on the ones that we agreed with, and the ones that actually took our feedback.
it was too nice in my head, apparently. No.
Yeah, I
But
know.
you know what's funny?
I was not nice. I was like, look, guys, we need to do this properly. Otherwise, like,
It's not
it's
gonna
not going to
work. Yeah.
happen. It worked too well.
It did work. It did absolutely work. The funny thing is, like, this was 6 years ago, 8 years ago, right? And last year when I was in Munich, do you remember we worked on proposals with Hamza for Trust from India? And
Yeah.
I talked with them and they were surprised that I know of their organization. And I told them I worked with Amsterdam Youth Force years ago. And I remember we worked on proposals together. They still remembered and they were like, that level of support we never received again for these conferences
Oh, okay.
because you have
I
gotten
was like, oh my
no,
God,
no,
what
no.
are they going to say?
They were super happy. They were like, you have gotten so involved. And that was also exactly what we needed. We didn't take the ownership of their ideas, but we wanted to make it successful as if it was our own baby, so to say. And we gave genuine
Yeah.
support and genuine feedback to improve and ensure that or hope that their proposals will also get accepted.
And we were in very close contact with IAS, which I am not sure other US forces were. I didn't realize, and Lilo told me like later on. But as soon as the Amsterdam Youth Force thing was on it, because they knew how well organized we were, the chances of the proposal getting accepted was much higher, which also in turn led to more of our proposals being accepted.
That's good. But also, to be fair, that year there was an extra focus on youth involvement as well. Like each conference has its own
Yes.
theme, and that year's theme was youth engagement and increasing youth engagement because the infection rates were out of control and all that. Breaking barriers, building
Well, was it?
bridges was the theme of this conference. And I
I think we put that in almost all of the proposals, and at some point it's like, oh
you
my
should
God,
get that
it's
tattooed,
just
by the way. But two things.
no,
First, I
definitely not.
First, I remember Mercy's speech. I think it was the closing speech for the conference. And she also, like us, heard that theme, breaking barriers, building bridges, so many times. Do you remember the point, like the punchline of her speech? She said, yeah, let's break barriers and build bridges, but then make sure your bridge is leading somewhere. And then there was a photo of a bridge that was built somewhere, I don't know where, that actually didn't connect to the other end.
Didn't do anything. Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
so
that was
brilliant.
great. Yeah.
And the second thing, we actually got our first tattoos during the conference as well, as if we
We
didn't have
did.
enough things to do.
We did. I mean, honestly, that was also one of the highlights.
It really
I
was.
am very, it was so nice. So our tattoos are actually part of an art project. And the art project tattoos the Declaration of Human Rights onto like 6,000 and something people, one letter at a time. And we have two of those letters, which is super cool.
It is super cool, but let's tell the drama as well. So I did not know. Apparently, you need to be nominated, and they have like a short interview with you. So Luciana did all of that for both of us. And
No, Lilo did
okay,
that.
Lilo did both of
Lilo nominated us.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lilo did all of that for both of us. And Luciana literally dragged me out of the conference one day saying we are going somewhere. And I thought we were going to get a drink or chill or, I don't know, gossip. No, we went to a hotel, which the terrace was turned into a tattoo studio. And then they gave us numbers and letters and said, you're going to get these tattoos done. So you need to write a short bio. We did all of that. But then I realized the letter I've gotten was the initial letter of a daddy that I was involved with back then. And I was like, Lucian, I cannot get this letter. I will always
Well, I have it now.
Yeah. I was like, I will always associate it with him. We need to swap. I cannot get this letter. So that's why I have an N.
I have a D.
You have a D.
Yeah.
But
oh well. No, but you know why we actually were like, because I wanted them to be at the AIDS conference.
I remember their proposal, and then we were told it's not sanitary enough to have them at a conference venue or something like that, and then they couldn't be at the conference.
That's why then they switched to a hotel.
It's called Human Rights Tattoo, by the way, everyone. You can go and Google it. But overall, that was the year I think I fully decided after the conference, okay, this is what I want to do in my life. I want to continue working with these people because it became a huge part of my healing process. And I was like, okay, I want more of this. Whatever this is, I'm doing it from now. Here we are. I'm still doing it. And after that year, I also was involved in San Francisco Youth Force during the pandemic, and then other youth forces later on as well. And we also left behind a guideline for other youth forces to learn from our experiences so they don't have to try to resolve the same issues we
Is that
worked.
actually
No,
being used?
it's news,
Right.
but it's there somewhere at IAS. I tried pulling it up and making it used, but yeah, last year also when we got involved as Y Plus Global, they were discussing teasing meetings. And I said, guys, we literally spent months writing a guideline. Where is that guideline?
Yeah.
All of this is explained in there. And they're like, what guideline? I was like, oh my God. And then I had to pull it up from my Gmail drive somewhere. And then I gave it to them. But no, it's not. It's not utilized the way we think it would be, unfortunately. But we tried, right?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
what you can do in life. Sometimes
we did, yeah.
you do your best
I mean,
and you move on.
yeah, yeah. It was an insane year because I was also like starting to work as a lawyer and I worked like 60 hours a week. It was insanity. And like the law firm I worked at, like they were assholes. They probably are gonna watch that. So
I remember how your
it
mood
was
has gotten
horrible.
so much worse after you got that job. But thankfully you didn't stay for too long.
Well, it was 10 months. I should have quit in like the first 2 weeks, but I didn't.
Live
The
and
girl that
learn.
came out, yeah, so it was like an internship, so they always had someone. The girl that came after me quit in the first week.
She was smart. She was like, nope,
Yeah,
I'm not going to deal with this. But
nope,
yeah.
not happening.
So
Yeah,
we have a section in our
yes,
podcast called Red Ribbon Rant. This is the part of the
yes.
podcast for you to bring up a subject and rant about it the way you want to. Anything comes
Cool.
up to your mind?
Yes, actually. And it is very closely connected to youth force and general activism and how activists are treated. It showed me during organizing youth force in Amsterdam, which admittedly is 8 years ago, but also it showed me last year with your job and like with your career. I've seen it all the time. Like the idea that because you're an activist and because you're doing something for your own community, you're supposed to work for free, which sucks.
So Pascal, who the listeners will meet in the next episodes, Mercy, Pascal, and I were part of this project with IAS and Y Plus Global, and Pascal wrote and we provided feedback on ethical engagement with young people living with HIV guidelines, which was circulated all around the world. And one of the major points there is also the compensation for the time of the youth. And unlike other civil rights movements, youth movements have this very unique thing that you age out of them. So there's a natural
Yes.
turnover within the youth space. And that also comes with less compensation somehow because you're inexperienced. I'm doing air quotes because but if you're experienced with our lived experiences, and that's enough.
Nobody's more experienced in sharing their story than themselves because it's their story. So like some of the people that we worked with, they have activists like 12-year-olds, literally. How? And I understand that it's good for the cause, but I don't know if it's good for the people, and especially them not being paid and like being used for the greater good is bullshit. I'm sorry.
And you know what has been so annoying for me, as I was one of those young people. I was a 14, 15. I was always in my early 20s when I joined, but the exposure, like you won't be getting financial compensation for this, but this exposure would be so good for you. If I'm so inexperienced that I don't deserve to get paid, then why are you asking me to tell my lived experience in exchange for exposure for your project? I'm sorry, that makes absolute no sense. Like, what's happening? Is exposure paying my bills?
No, it isn't.
But as you said, that is
No,
why
it
so many
definitely
people
isn't.
we have worked with have burnt out and left the space as well.
it goes further than that as well, right? There was a time where I was able to write a speech about your like being diagnosed because I read and heard you tell that story so many times, and
You would literally
and
mark a
it was a
paragraph and say, this paragraph again.
yeah. But I think also it like something very interesting happened. So you obviously came into my life and into my family as well, because you now live in Switzerland and you've met all of my sisters and cousins and everybody. And what happened when they first met you, that they felt that you told them something very intimate of yourself.
God, I remember this. Yeah.
And then they were like saying, yeah, like he's living with HIV and he told me and it's so personal. And I just thought to myself, no, that's like his public story. That's what he shares with everyone. Like and that's such a strange flip of how this works and
Yeah.
how something that is normally extremely personal to someone is how they discovered that they are HIV positive and like their entire struggle with it, which would normally be something sacred that you share with like close friends, got switched to something that is used as a tool, and you are taught to use as a tool to like get further in your career, and up to a certain point are also being used by like older activists and organizations to showcase it, which makes sense in like we need people to know who like what it is, but it also is kind of
It is
strange.
strange because it is unnatural, right? And also two things. First
Yes.
one, right, it got me all this international attention. My story got displayed and showcased around the world and all that, while the whole thing was putting me in danger in my home country. That was
Yep.
always overlooked. I always gave consent to it because I wanted to do it and I wanted to leave the country and I was privileged to have another passport and all that. But still, that was not
And
fully
let's
considered.
be real here as well. Like, at least when AIDS conference happened, like Amsterdam happened, you were one of the safer ones
Yeah.
with Turkey.
Yeah.
There were activists that were in extreme danger because of their activism in their own country.
Yeah. True. Absolutely true.
And I don't know how much consideration is given to that from like the people leading those organizations.
Yeah. For the AIDS conferences specifically, it's just a week and it could be safer. But other things that I have done completely blew out of proportion and got translated and circulated all around the world, right? Like the things that I've done at IES and AIDS conferences.
Translated without your consent.
Exactly. Like things that I've done for IES and international AIDS conferences usually stay there. And IES is absolutely more careful about the type of exposure they give to people. But the other things that I've done through the connections that I built at the conferences, they usually blew out of proportions. And I signed the waiver, but then it got translated to everything and it just traveled all around the world. But going back to your point, the second thing about how it became such a natural thing for me to share something that is normally so personal for other people. I remember, or do you remember, we had this moment after I moved to Switzerland, actually before I moved to Switzerland, when I started visiting, people that you have known for such a long time started telling me personal stories, like private things about their lives.
Yes, because they thought you shared something extremely personal with
Yeah, I
them.
remember we had a
And then they
conversation.
started sharing stuff with you. Like my sisters started sharing stuff with you that I didn't know. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
And for those of you that do not know, Swiss people are extremely preserved, and there will be an episode about my struggles in
Reserved.
Switzerland. Reserved and
Reserved,
preserved in
not
their own
preserved.
natural ways, in their Landai ways. They're also preserved. I'm sorry. This was such a good red ribbon rant topic. The exploitation, exposure of people in the field. With that, is there anything else you wanted to touch upon on this podcast? Anything you wanted to tell,
I
but
don't
you
think
didn't
so.
tell? Oh, maybe
No.
you should also let people know this
Yes.
organization exists because of you and our relationship. Because I, as a Ausländer, as a migrant, was not allowed to register an organization in Switzerland. So we needed the support and the signatures of Swiss people. And Luciana and Lucas were always there next to me, literally saying, this job is killing you. Your life cannot be all about this job. You need to protect yourself and do your own thing and be more control of your life. So they helped me register this organization with Swiss authorities. And then they're currently on the board. And thankfully, they're both lawyers. So they will have the legal side of everything covered for our kid and everything that we do. And I want to thank you so much from my heart for doing all of this. I appreciate you so much.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate you too.
And that was the last thing I wanted to say. Anything you want to say?
No,
And with
all
that,
good.
thank you for listening to this podcast episode, everyone. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.
Bye, everyone.